Good afternoon, everybody. I know I haven't posted on YouTube for a while, but I do have a new update on the Aristo. Last time you saw it, I did the intercooler install, which went pretty well. It's still very good. Couplers do pretty good. Nothing really has had any issues at all with it, so I'm really happy with it. Update on the Aristo. The initial wheels I had for the Mercedes, I went ahead and got it re-drilled. And they actually sit pretty good. A little bit of camera in the rear because I need to do some cutting. I rolled the front fenders a little bit, but I think it sits pretty good. So I got the 5x112 wheels converted to 5x114. And then I also did the Supra calipers. So they came out pretty nice, and I'm pretty happy. They made a mistake and sent me the wrong lug nuts, but I got my money back. But the purple actually looked kind of cool with the orange. The orange kind of matches the side marker, and then the wheels actually do a really good job matching the vertex, but that's just me, at least my personal opinion. And I also did the Lexus steering wheel with the paddle shifters that do function and a wrap on there, so that's pretty nice. Also did a mechanical shift kit. It's very nice. I'm very happy with it. It's just really firm when it needs to, and it sits a little bit pretty close to stock for stock shifting, but just a little bit quicker, so you really can't feel the difference. I didn't do a video on it. I should have, but you know, it is what it is. So today I still have to clean a lot of this stuff up. For instance, like I have the Mac valve that I need to go ahead and I made a 3D print them out, but I was doing like an aftermarket intake that I designed, 3D printed, and it was good, but I just had some weird issues because I am now, and this is all temporary right now, it's just hanging out for now. But I am on ECU Masters with a jumper harness. The jumper harness is so that I can run my AC controls, my dash cluster, and like all the electric stuff and the transmission. So I can't just run the standalone by itself. Maybe if I was manual, I can go around that, but I kind of need that for a lot of that stuff. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is, unless I do a manual swap, which maybe I do, maybe I don't know yet. But I also got this HKS blow-up valve. Felt like it matched the period correctness for the Aristo. And everything's really good. Like I said, nothing's wrong. I just had a couple of issues on the dyno after a couple of things. As far as the issues, they're not really issues per se. They're more supporting situations that I had to correct. So right now I actually, you can't really see it, but I have a radium style radio, fuel rail, and I actually have a the radium dampener, and then the radium bolt-on regulator, which is really nice. It kind of keeps everything off. I have this really cheap, crappy fuel pressure gauge, which is leaking. So this Graham from Amazon, I did it temporarily, but I have actually a digital one that I'm going to be putting on there, so I can actually send a signal to the ECU Masters and get rid of that piece of crap and send it back to Amazon. The STI blue injectors I got for free, which is really great. I know I had one guy in the forum was like, why don't you just go 2200s? Well, I got this for free. And if I do the Y game, then why did I buy this piece of crap? Why did I just buy like a 890 Supra? But we can sit here and play games all day, but I'm not gonna do that. So STI blues for now. Stock turbo is perfectly fine. Stock intake box most likely is perfectly fine with a drop-in filter. Supporting mods. The issue I'm having is that when we're dynoing the car, it seems like the stock fuel pump module is tripping out, so I need to go ahead and make corrections to that. As far as a stock fuel pump module, I believe it's back here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. Basically, if you guys don't know what that does, it regulates voltage to the fuel pump. So under like low conditions, you'll be using about 9 volts of power to the fuel pump. And on demanding conditions, when you're giving a gas or asking for more fuel, it'll then ramp up to 12 PSI of fuel pressure. The problem that I'm having on the dyno, we're noticing that when we're getting into boost and one gear is perfectly fine, as soon as it shifts below a certain threshold RPM wise, and then it tries to build back up, and I'm already into boost, it's leaning out. And so even though we're demanding more fuel, it continues to lean out, which is not the tuner's fault by any means. It's not the computer's fault. It's the fact that I got this fuel pump module that is in the back that is regulating that. So to remedy that, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So you can see this thick wire that's red. It's the wire that I had. Very nice wire. I actually made it go into the grommet in there, into the inside of the Aristo. Now I'm sure on a GS300 you can probably do the same thing. The difference is the steering wheel's on this side. I just had to kind of look around, and it's actually pretty easy. I didn't have to do anything too crazy. I just went into the glove box and I noticed that the grommet was on the other side, so I just ran the wire through there. And the reason why the wire's here is because I actually gonna run this wire directly to the battery power. From the battery power, we're gonna run it all the way inside. And I haven't shown you, but I took this all apart and I ran it all the way in here, really nice and neat. As you can see, it'll be coming right out of there. You can't run the wire directly to the fuel pump. A lot of people do the fuel pump mod, in which they just jump the wire going in to the wire coming out the pump. And you could do that if you want 12 volts of consistent power. But I wanted to make sure I get the full alternator amperage and voltage directly to the pump to maximize the most voltage possible for the pump efficiently. And so what I'm gonna end up doing is I got a relay. I believe this is like Pico brand relay. You can use any relay. This is that's a relay that I know my friend uses pretty regularly when he does the Subaru fuel pump upgrades and things like that. So I'm going to use this relay, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to wire it up to where you have consistent power to one part of the relay. The trigger is going to be the wire initially made for the original fuel pump. You're going to ground this relay out accordingly, and then you're essentially having consistent power from the battery, the charging system, directly to the fuel pump. And then before I do that, I'm going to run this little 20 amp fuse, so that if I do ever have issues, it blows a fuse first before ever getting to the relay at all. As you can see, I already took the fuel pump out, and it's sitting right over here into its little carriage. Initially, I was thinking about going with a Walbro 450 for future proof, but I've seen some pretty interesting hacks where you use like bolts and stuff, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that's not what I want to do. And right now I'm going to be on twins for at least another year, kind of enjoying the power that it makes on twins. I mean, even not getting enough fuel and it running kind of weird, having TPMS issues on the dyno, all these things are just because I have a freaking 27-year-old car. My car still made about 360 wheel. I'm trying to get closer to 380 on pump gas, and I think this is going to be doing it more efficiently. Fuel pump that I went with, it's a recommended pump by my good friend Miguel. Like I said, he uses these pretty regularly. They do test these pumps individually. I'm not sure how the other companies do, like AM and things like that. But this is like a Fuel Lab. I guess you would consider it like a 340 liters per hour pump. Very similar to the market. AM has their own pump. Dutch Works, that's a pump I will never use because that company sucks. But I know that this has been pretty reliable, and it is E85 compatible. Not to say that those 550s in the car will even use this, but like I said, this is not bad. And he gave me a really good deal on it. I think I got this for like $100, so I'm not complaining there. And the cool thing about this pump is that it'll actually bolt up directly into the stock housing, so I won't have to modify anything at all, and I can just drop it back in. Okay, so I went ahead and disassembled it. I don't want to go through all the hassle of filming it because there's a bunch of videos online, but I took the cap off the bottom with this little guy here. It's like a little support for the original pump. Took this sending unit out. As always, make sure you take care of this thing, because if you break it, you're gonna have to buy a new one. Just has a resistance there to show your fuel level. This carriage, or this cage, holds the pump. This is the top of the pump. Everything's pretty much just sealed with like rubber. Everything looks pretty good from factory still. Clean this up before you put everything back on also. And then just the reverse order. So that's pretty much it. Comes with 2 different socks. I don't know which one I'll use. Probably just this one because this makes the most sense to me. And it just clamps and everything should go back to stock. So this is the original pump. I had to actually take like a piece of plastic that's like a retainer for the O-ring. And then the top part kind of seals with the actual bucket. I know that a lot of times you'll include this hose for like a universal application. But like I said, I didn't want to go back as factory as possible. So I just went ahead and took all these things out for that. All right, so new pumps in, new sock, everything bolts up like factory. What I'm gonna have to do now is I'm gonna have to cut and solder these, and I'm probably gonna see maybe if I can de-pin these or maybe just splice them. I don't know yet. This is like a thicker gauge wire, so I'll probably end up just de-pinning this connector and seeing if I can utilize that, but I'll have to see. But as you can see, everything bolts up like factory as it's intended to, so not too bad. All right, and that's the assembly. Clean the top up a little bit. Everything clips into place. O-rings are all good and set, and I am ready to throw it back in. Okay, it's the following day. I was initially going to do everything at the shop yesterday, but I had to come back out to the fam, so I went ahead and just put the pump in and drove it, you know, stock wire setup. So I do have the, as I said, Hardwire ran up here. It's not connected to anything, I just left it in there. What I'm doing now is I'm gonna put the relay on there, but before we can actually do that, you actually have to bypass this module anyways inside the trunk. Now, in the trunk, it's an Aristo. I think it's the same thing on a GS2. Behind the seat, you just gotta take this panel off or push it back at least. And that is the module right there. Now, you don't have to unbolt it or anything unless you want to try to sell it on eBay or do something with it. But you need to get the connector off of it. And there's going to be 4 wires to this connector. Well, 6 wires in total. 2 of them you don't have to touch. And then the other 4, I'm sorry, you're going to have to snip. So pretty much it's pretty easy to see which one they are. They're all the thicker ones. So white, blue and white, the solid blue and red, and then the red and black. Now these are going to be the wires that we're going to have to put together so that we can go ahead and get 12 volts to the relay when we hardwire it. Now the reasons why we're connecting these, as you can see here with these crimp connectors, the thick blue with red line and the black with red line, that is going to be your power to the actual pump now. And then the blue and white, and the white is the ground. So essentially what I've done is I've ran 12 volt consistent to the pump. So if you just want to do that in mod itself, I mean, you could, and then just literally, you know, plug the connector back in, and you should theoretically have a running setup as is. To prove that it works without even doing the relay, I'm actually just going to turn on, and so you should actually hear the pump turn on now. Let's see. So it's kind of hard to hear it, but it is priming, and so that means you're going to have essentially consistent power to the pump. Got that taken care of. This is where it kind of makes a little bit more sense if you're kind of lost. Now you see there's 4 wires here. And if you remember, the red and blue and the black and red for power is right there. And then I believe the white and blue are the ground. So what you have here is ground for the pump, power for the pump. And I'd be willing to bet that these 2 are most likely for the fuel level senders, just to check up on that. So, yeah. Okay, so I have the relay here. Now, initially I was going to use this Pico relay, which is a good relay. You know, nothing wrong with it. I mean, these are still pretty cheap. But the only reason why I'm not going to use this one is because this was not shielded to the elements. And I'm going to try to shove this relay where the fuel pump sits underneath the actual seal. And I don't want to get any kind of water or moisture and then corrode this. And it might not, you know, but I'm just being cautious. So I did have another relay in my wire box. This one just seems like to be I don't know, like an Amazon relay, but I'm sure it works perfectly fine. The reason why I like it is because it's rubber insulated, sealed off to the elements, and it's got a rubber ring inside. When you're wiring up relay, I strongly recommend using, you know, the diagram as a reference. This is going to be a 20 amp relay rated for 14 volts direct current, and colors don't necessarily mean anything. But for this particular relay, I'm going to kind of walk you through and show you what to wire up and how to wire it up. For this relay, what you're going to be looking at. And I know some of you guys have a hard time reading this, but like I said, it should specify everything up here, how to wire this thing up. But for this particular instance on this one, this red one right here for me is going to be going to from the battery. So basically direct from the battery wire, that wire ran all the way up into this guy right here. We're not going to be using the yellow wire, so we're just going to detach this or disconnect it or just leave it like this. It really doesn't matter. The white wire right here is going to be your trigger. So basically the wire that came from the module that we connected earlier, it's going to be sending 12 volts into this thing. This is going to be your ground, so we're going to ground this on the chassis somewhere behind the seat that has a really good ground. And then this blue wire is going to be the wire that's going to go into your fuel pump, so the device that you're using. Okay, so power from the battery, your trigger, the 12 volts that we modified, a chassis ground somewhere under the seat, and then this guy right here is going to the fuel pump itself. Before I clean all this up, I'm just going to show you what I did. Here's the red from the battery. The red comes through here to the grommet, and then it's going to make contact with the red on the relay. The black wire, I have it anchored to the seatbelt bracket or the seat bracket. That's going to be your chassis ground. That's going to be grounding the relay itself. The white is your trigger. So the blue and red wire that we modified earlier is going to be triggering the relay. And then the blue wire here is going to the vise to the actual pump itself. So essentially all we did was cut the blue and red wire. One side went to the trigger, the other side that's going into the pump is going to be fed the power cable. Okay, so I have the relay just in there, everything's good. I temporarily connected the power wire. I'm going to get a connector to the actual, like a connector that goes directly to that with the inline fuse, at least a 20 amp fuse. So just in case something happens, it'll pop a 20 amp fuse before it kills anything back there. So, but I'm going to show you that it still works. And I'm still getting tuned. So if the start takes a long time, it's not the wire's problem. It's just because I need to work on my cold start stuff. So all works. I should be getting whatever the charging system is putting out. Hear the pump buzzing, all working correctly. Here's the kind of where it's going to be. It's all wrapped up with electric tape. So relay, OEM harness, and so everything should sit pretty nice with the grommet, so you won't really tell that in this red wire. And I might just have taped this up here so you can't really tell where it's at. Here it doesn't really matter, but you know, just if you want to make it look a little bit better. And there she is with the cover on. Ground, power, everything goes in there. The relay is in there. Put the clips back on, and pretty good.